The storm left a taste of iron on my tongue and salt dried into my eyebrows like frost, and still the quiet in our apartment was the coldest thing I met that Friday night. I set my duffel down and the wheels of it thudded once, the way a heart knocks after a sprint. On the table, under the glow of a kitchen pendant, her ring sat like a dropped coin. On the couch, my oldest friend leaned forward with his elbows on his knees. Bare footprints darkened the hardwood toward the balcony like a trail through tidewater. That's how the night began. Ring, friend, footprints. The mystery answered itself, and yet it didn't. The real question wasn't what happened, it was why it had to be him. If you've lived near the water long enough, you learn to measure time and tides and repairs. I'm a port technician, electrical, hydraulic, whatever the cranes and gantries need to keep moving the big ships in and out. My hands know the shape of wrenches in the dark. My body knows the rhythm of swing shifts, the way sleep shifts in you until you stop chasing it. At 42, I had turned myself into a person you could count on, like dock cleats, stable, bolted, solid. Casey used to tell me I was her tide chart. "You hold me when I don't know why I'm rising or falling," she'd say, back when we were both young enough to mistake poetry for promises. She worked for years in neonatology, the unit where the room itself whispers in blue light, where machines keep vigil over frail breaths. It changed her, the way staring at a horizon too long changes you. You still smile, but it's refracted through something distant. When the twins came to us at 3, and their baby sister 9 months later, Casey said yes through tears. She said yes to the social worker's list of needs. She said yes the first time the twins woke screaming from nowhere dreams, and the 100th time. She said yes until her yes sounded like a person telling a dog to sit, and I learned to tell our yes from our help. She also said, over and over, "If you want another life, Liam, go. Don't let me keep you." She'd say it in the kitchen over cold coffee, in the laundry room over wet towels, in the car at a red light. "Go if you want different," like it was a kindness to offer the exit before I even reached the room. I never took it. I told myself that loyalty is a kind of love you can set your watch by. I told myself the boat only rides out storms when somebody stays at the helm. So, Friday night. The storm had come in hard off the sound, knocking the container stacks into low metal grumbles and smacking rain into a single pane in the break room, so hard the rookies flinched. We'd earned the right to feel tired and wet and proud for patching power to a crane that would have stranded a ship till daylight. I wanted what men like me want after a hard shift, a warm room that knows your name, the sound of laughing in a place that belongs to you, something on the stove that smelled like tomatoes and garlic and the end of a long day. Instead, ring, friend, footprints. Sean didn't stand up when I opened the door. He took a breath like a diver who'd gone down too fast. He was barefoot in jeans and a t-shirt I'd seen 100 times when we rebuilt my old Yamaha outboard in my parents' driveway, back when we thought a good day had to end with grease on your knuckles. He'd been the best man the day we took the kids to the courthouse, and the judge's gavel made our family official. He'd been the guy who taught my oldest how to throw a proper two-seam, the guy who showed up with pizza on days when the shell of our house felt thin. "Hey," he said. The word sounded like he'd found it under the couch cushions. "We were going to call you." "We," I repeated, because I'm slow when water gets in my ears. "Casey's on the balcony," he said. I didn't step toward him. I stood very still and listened. The dishwasher hummed low. Outside, gulls cut at the wind even though it had already shifted. A glass clinked against wood on the small table we keep by the patio chairs. The apartment smelled like salt and wine, and somewhere below us a door opened and closed, someone's Friday entering and ending. Thunder rolled twice in the distance, old sound that took its time getting here. "Where are the kids?" I asked. "At my sister's," he said. "Movie night." He swallowed. "Liam." I lifted a hand, and he stopped. "You don't work around cranes without learning how to halt motion with a gesture?" Casey stepped inside, slid the glass door closed behind her, and stood with her hand resting on the frame. Her hair was pulled up into a knot that made her look younger, and also like a woman who stopped trying to control the part of the day that kept coming undone. She was barefoot too. Her toenails were painted the color of winter apples. She wore one of my old sweatshirts, so the sleeves swallowed her hands. "I didn't want it like this," she said. "Yo!" "Then why is it like this?" I asked. She looked at the ring, then at me. She didn't look at Sean. "Because I'm not who I told you I was," she said, "and I don't know how to be honest without breaking something we promised the kids." "Something we promised the kids," I repeated, because the echo had to sit next to the ring a second so I could see both. I'm not going to say I was calm. What I will say is that when you spend decades making your body remain still while heavy machinery moves inches from your head, a kind of winter grows inside you that you can draw on when rooms catch fire. I chose not to shout. It's not saintly, it's muscle memory. You should go, I said to Sean. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand like he was the one who'd tasted blood. Liam, listen, You should go, I said again. There will be time if there needs to be, not now. He stood. He looked at Casey, and that little look did something final to the rest of my night. He slid his feet into his shoes and left the room without brushing my shoulder. The door shut. The apartment breathed. The gulls wheeled and decided we weren't interesting. We stood there, two people who had built a life on the idea that consistency is a virtue, and the sound of the dishwasher filled up the parts of the room where a conversation should have been. I don't know where to start, Casey said at last. Try the beginning, I said, and then tell me why it had to be him. She pressed her lips together and did something I hated her for a little, which is that she smiled a tiny, apologetic smile that didn't reach her eyes. It was the smile she used with parents in the unit when she had to say the machine would do most of the breathing now. The beginning is that I'm tired, she said. The kind of tired that goes past sleep. The kind that's bone and skin and language. That isn't a beginning, I said. That's a weather report. She looked at the balcony door like the rain might write this for her in Morse on the glass. I am trying, she said, and her voice wavered. Do you want me to say I'm broken? That something inside me snapped and I didn't tell you because I didn't know how to tell you a thing I didn't want to be true? Yes, I said, because I'd rather be punched with the name of a thing than kissed with silence. She closed her eyes. I didn't know how to say that everything in me that used to feel attuned has been static for years. Like I only hear half of what life plays, and I'm faking the rest. I can work, I can care, I can cook the kid's favorite pasta and call the social worker back and hold a friend's hand. But when it's dark, I go empty. I kept telling you to go because I wanted permission to disappear. I wanted you to choose for us. And Sean? I asked. Why through him? She winced. Because he was here, she said, and the bluntness knocked some air out of me. Because I'm not brave enough to look for a stranger and break my life with a decision I made alone. Because he was the friend who looks people in the eye and listens like water going clear over rocks. Because he knows our kids. Because he saw me. He also saw me, I said. I know men and their excuses, Case. I'm a man. But a friend, he crosses that line and he burns the dock behind him. She looked small and angry and regretful all at once. You're making him bigger than he is, she said. This is about me, not him. He was barefoot on my couch, I said. It's at least a little about him. We went quiet, and Thunder walked around the city like a heavy man deciding which chair he wanted. You never expect the moment your life tilts to be so mundane. Crockery, appliances, damp footprints in the shadow of a friend's toes. Where are the kids exactly? I asked, because logistics will save you when answers won't. Brett's, she said. Pizza. A movie about dogs. They'll sleep there. I wasn't going to do anything with them in the house. I'm not. You already did something, I said, and I hated the sound of my voice because it was true and mean and still softer than I wanted it to be. She nodded. I know. Okay, I said. The word felt like it had to move through sand to get to my mouth. This is what's going to happen tonight. You're going to put your ring somewhere safe. You're going to sleep in the guest room. I'm going to sleep in ours because I need a door to close. I'll pick up the kids at 10 in the morning so they have their Saturday with me. You will pack what you need for a week, just a week, and go stay with your sister. We'll meet Sunday with a calendar and a notebook and write down who sleeps where and when, and we'll call someone whose job it is to guide people like us through days like those. 2 people break something. 2 people fix what can be fixed. She nodded again, then sat on the far edge of the couch and gathered the sleeves of my old sweatshirt in her fists like she could squeeze an answer out of the fabric. I didn't sit next to her. I went to the sink and ran water and drank from my hands, tasting tin from the faucet. When you don't know what else to do, your body will tell you its simplest needs. Mine wanted water, sleep, a locked door, time. That should be where the story speeds up. It doesn't. The next morning I woke before my alarm because men my age and my zip code and line of work always wake before alarms. I stared at the ceiling fan and felt the space where her breathing would have been like the absence of sound is a sound. I got up, I made coffee. I wrote down an inventory of what I owned that could be parceled in a sentence. I packed a small bag and went to pick up the kids. People will tell you you can't talk to children about adult failures. I think they are wrong in a way that hurts kids most. The twins are 8 and their sister is 5 going on weather. She blows through rooms with a climate you notice. I sat them down at our kitchen table when we got home. The smell of last night's wine had been scrubbed away and it still hung faintly like a memory. I poured them each a glass of juice and gave them Oreos at 10:30 in the morning because sometimes you throw sugar at sadness. Mom's at Aunt Brit's for a little while, I said. We're going to make a new schedule so you know exactly who picks you up from school and who does bedtime on which night. You will always know. That is my promise. You are safe. You are loved. The rest is just grown-ups using calendars and being honest. My oldest, he's a minute older and has made it his life's work to be gentle about it, asked the question I would have preferred later. Did you and Mom have a fight? Oh, yes, I said. Are you mad at us? His twin asked. Never, I said. You are the part I'm proudest of. What you worry is your fault is the part that isn't. I put my hand on the table and waited. Both boys put their hands on mine like a sporting huddle. Their sister slid her hand on top like the last card in a trick and said, very solemn, we have to keep each other safe now. She learned that sentence somewhere I don't know, and it undid me. We played Uno. We went to the park between squalls and the boys tried to kick a ball that skidded on wet grass like a seal looking for friction. We ate grilled cheese. I put on an old movie about a family who moves to a lighthouse and we shouted at the screen when the youngest falls in the water and the dad jumps in fully clothed because I wanted them to see that version of a father's body in movement. In, no hesitation, wet, cold, sure. When I dropped them at Brit's at 5, I saw Casey in the hallway, hair damp, face bare. We stood 6 feet apart like people in polite lines. Neither of us stepped forward for whatever our version of a hug would have been. We need a therapist, I said, not for us, not to fix us, for co-parenting, somebody who will tell us what to do when we want to do the opposite of the right thing. She nodded. I looked up 3, she said, and handed me a folded paper with names and numbers. 2 take our insurance. 1 has evening slots. All of them specialize in adoption. The part of me that had wanted to throw plates last night exhaled. This, I thought, is a person I can do the business of loving our kids with. This is what a different kind of loyalty looks like. We started on Tuesday with a therapist named Helen who had salt and pepper hair and an office full of IKEA bookshelves and small toys that looked like they'd been cleaned even before the pandemic made clean into a religion. She sat with her legs crossed and her hands loose on her knees and looked at both of us like we were necessary, not broken machines. I'm going to say a sentence, she said at the start. You tell me if it fits. We made promises to each other that we can no longer keep, but we can still keep our promises to our children. Casey's eyes went glassy. I felt my jaw unlock a notch. Yes, we both said. Good, Helen said. Then we begin with calendars. Calendars are the airplanes of divorce, not glamorous, but they get you to the place where you can walk out into a new air. We laughed, the tired kind. She had us call the kids the crew for the rest of the hour, like we were getting ready to sail something together we didn't quite know how to sail. She asked us to write down rituals we wanted to carry across both houses like anchors, pancakes on Saturdays, books before bed, the little whisper I say at the doorway while they sleep. Safe harbor, I say, because I'm corny and because I mean it. She told us not to promise holidays. Promise the next thing, not the big thing, she said. Promises are only valuable if kept. Keep small ones. Collect kept promises like shells. If therapy were only calendars, we could have left it there and been a model co-parent team. But the body keeps score, and mine wanted a different book tallied as well. On Thursday, I asked Sean to meet me down by the maintenance shed between berth 12 and the ferry dock, where you can stand and say things men say and not be overheard by anyone but gulls, and the single security camera that has watched me pick my nose more than I care to admit. He came. He wore the same stupid t-shirt. The day was still, and the water had the color it gets when the sky is winter and indecisive. I need you to say one thing to me, I said when he stopped a yard away. Then I'll say one thing, and then we won't talk for a while. Okay, he said, hands in his jacket pockets like he was a teenager hauled out of algebra to confess something to the vice principal. What do you need me to say? The truth, I said. Did you or did you not sleep with my wife while I was at work fixing power to a crane that moved her friend's boss's container of tile to a luxury condo that someone will Instagram? He flinched at the syntax, but he didn't hedge. Yes, he said, we did. Did you think about me at all? I asked. Did you think about the kids? Did you think about the way Bones set? Did you think about your sister and how she would look at me when I picked my children up from her house? Or did the closest thought you had to a consequence die on the way from your mouth to your hands? He breathed through his nose and closed his eyes. I thought about 100 things, he said, and I did the wrong one anyway. He opened his eyes. I'm sorry. I don't forgive you, I said, and watched a gull land, light as punctuation, but I accept the sentence. He nodded. If I could take it back. You can't, I said. Here's the one thing I'll say if you'll listen and not interrupt. He waited. You do not come to my house, I said. You do not make me see your shoes by my door. You do not meet my children unless and until their therapist, their mother, and I all agree it serves them, not you. You do not text me. You do not ask me for my schedule. You do not ask me for my schedule. You don't get to be the close friend who saves the day anymore because you set it on fire. You understand? Yes, he said. He wiped his nose with the back of his hand like a kid again. Liam, I told you not to interrupt, I said. I'll let you know when you can talk to me like a person you haven't betrayed. That day might be when we are 70 and we meet at a supermarket by accident and laugh because we're not dead yet. It is not this decade. He took the sentence like a man takes a wave he can't duck, and he left. I stood on the riprap and watched the ferries. I counted 3 in and 2 out and imagined my life as a schedule board that never quite matches the actual comings and goings, and I let that feel like both a loss and a kind of mystery I could learn to enjoy. Evidence piles were never my marriage's problem. There was always enough to know. Proof came like tide rack, receipts from a wine bar we never went to with tips in his handwriting, Uber charges to an address 2 blocks from our apartment because apparently we're all teenagers now and no one walks or tells the truth, a Venmo, for groceries with a string of hearts that felt less like flirting and more like graffiti on my own wall. The technical stuff, too, building fob logs that don't lie, our smart lock's entry history, bright like a flight manifest at hours I was wringing water from my socks under sodium lights, a text on our shared iPad from his name saying, balcony? At 8003 with a winking emoji that I will see on the back of my eyelids when I'm quiet too long. I could have printed them all and taped them to the kitchen cabinets like a detective. I didn't. I kept 2 screenshots and deleted the rest. I don't think we heal by hoarding proof. Proof is a tool, and tools are only noble when you use them to build. The divorce paperwork came in a stranger's envelope with my name spelled right, which felt like respect and violence. I took it to a coffee shop with wobbly tables and a barista who calls everyone Captain if you tip. I read every line like the words themselves could teach me a new way to think about my life. The law likes division, yours, mine, ours, then not ours. I found it astonishing that something as messy as loving someone and becoming a family had to be cut into columns. Casey and I met with a mediator who had kind eyes and a framed photo of the beach at low tide on her desk. She said things like, equitable and shared and best interest, and I wanted to take the words themselves to the park and let them climb on the playscape until they learned to breathe. We kept the apartment because it's what they know. Casey took a small place 3 bus stops away that smells like fresh paint and new chances. I kept the oddest things, the Dutch oven I make stew in on Sundays, the good scissors, the jar we fill with change for summer ice cream truck runs. She kept the art we'd been talking about hanging for 3 years and never did, and the guest room bed because I couldn't ask her to take the master, and I didn't want it. We split the books like people who have shared a language and still speak it, in a different accent now. On my nights, I made dinners that tasted like home on purpose, chicken with the skin crisped, rice with butter, broccoli with lemon because the youngest will only eat it if it looks like Christmas trees dusted with snow. We did homework. I taught the twins the knots my father taught me in a living room with a yellow shag rug and a dog who always wanted to help. Square knot for joining, bowline for rescue, clove hitch for holding fast. The little one made up names for them, together knot, save you knot, stay knot, stay knot, stay knot. She stood on the couch and pretended to toss a rope to me and shouted, man overboard, and laughed when I collapsed to the carpet. Do not tell me kids don't understand metaphor. They understand more than we admit because they haven't learned to be embarrassed about clarity. On Sundays, I started walking down to a battered boatyard with the twins and looking at a 1978 Albin that had been sitting lopsided and proud under a tarp for as long as I can remember. The guy who owned it wanted more to fix it than to sell it, which is how you end up with men like me in your life. I will buy it to make it right, and then I will love it because it finally is. The second time he saw us staring at her hull like it was a sleeping animal that might wake if we moved too fast, he shouted across the yard, "You know how to use a scraper? War!" "I was born in a scraper," I shouted back, which is a ridiculous sentence and made the twins howl. We brought her home in April under a sky the exact color of her faded gel coat, and I painted her name on the stern in letters that are too careful to be professional. Sunward, I wrote, because I needed to aim at something, and because the kids picked it, and because Casey said once that if she ever left the hospital she wanted to be a sunflower and always faced the light. Two of those three reasons made it a perfect name. We kept therapy going. You don't sit for an hour once a week with a person who asks you and your former partner to say a hard sentence each without trusting the medicine a little. Helen had me practice saying with a straight face and a full heart, "You are a good mother," which was miraculously true even though I didn't want to give her the gift of being both the person who hurt me and the person who tucks our kids in beautifully. She had Casey practice saying, "You are a good father," which I suspected she thought anyway, but you sometimes have to say the thing you know out loud or your body won't believe you. The kids got a therapist too, a young man who keeps a bowl of smooth stones on the table and asks them to pick one at the beginning and end of each session, and then asks if the stone felt different in their hand at the end. Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. I looked at those stones like I looked at the knots and at the boat and at my calendar, simple things that carry weight if you let them. Summer came, then left, then came again because the seasons make mistakes near the water. On my weekends, we went out on Sunward and I taught them that the bow is your forward thought and the stern is your memory and the beam is how wide you can love something and still keep it under you, and that a keel is the line you keep when wind tells you to do the easy wrong thing. We grilled hot dogs on a little propane rig that hissed like a cat and burned them a little because that's how dockside hot dogs are supposed to taste. The boat smelled like soap and rope and the ghosts of other people's days. I thought about Casey every time I turned my head to check the wake. That's not a confession, it's a fact. We didn't stop talking. We stopped talking in the particular way that breaks things and learned a different language, late-night texts about who picks up who, from which practice, at what time. Pictures of 2 missing front teeth and a new soccer medal, a grocery list that includes purple yogurt because our youngest refuses to learn the words for flavors and prefers colors. Every other Thursday, we still sat across from each other in Helen's office and said sentences that sounded like construction instructions for a bridge that could handle heavy traffic. We built. Casey began to say things like, "I met with a counselor of my own, and I walked for an hour and didn't listen to a podcast. I just walked." She left neonatology for a job that keeps her in sunlight more than LED blue, with a schedule that does not make her sleep at noon when the world wants noise from you. I did not ask her about Sean. It's not that I didn't think about him, only that thinking about him was like checking a cleat you already doubled. The line holds. You move on to the sail. One night in late September, when the air finally smelled like a different city and the last heat rose from the pavement like a sigh, we sat in folding chairs in a school gym for a caregivers co-op meeting because our district renames hard things into tasks you can do on a Tuesday. We wrote our names on name tags, Casey, Liam, and twins, and Em's mom, and Liam Casey's co-captain. She elbowed me when she saw it and smiled for real. "Co-captain?" she asked. "It's better than passenger," I said. We walked out into the parking lot. We could have stood too close and started a bad idea again. That's the thing they don't tell you about healing. It isn't a door you close, it's a practice. And some nights the practice is remembering to leave 6 inches of air where body heat wants to write you a love letter you will regret. We stood just far enough apart to be kind. "I want you to know," she said, looking at the halo around the streetlight, "because you can say more to a halo than a face sometimes, that the sentence I said in our kitchen that night, that you didn't know how to say you were broken," I filled in, because this is important. I had not needed her to repeat it to believe it, but I knew she needed to repeat it to live with it. "Yes," she said, "that one. It was true. It is true. It's also changing." She looked at me then. "I am trying to let the parts of me that feel like sand compact on their own, to stop pouring water in to make castles." I wanted to be petty and ask if her sandcastle building partner helped with that, but I didn't, because I don't want to be that man. "I see you trying," I said, "even when I don't get to see it up close." She nodded. "The kids are okay," she said, as if she were telling herself, "Right?" "They're more than okay," I said. "They're kids, which is the goal." She put her hands in her pockets and rocked on her heels the way she does when she's about to leave. "Thank you for teaching them knots," she said. "They tied my grocery bag to the cart." "That's a good stay knot," I said, and we both laughed. We stood there like that for a minute, and then we went home to different beds in homes that smelled different and right in their ways. A year and a half later, the divorce decree arrived on a Tuesday. The envelope was official and bland. The document said, "We are no longer married, like you can write the weather down and it will stay." I put it in a drawer next to the warranty for the hot water heater and the title to the boat I finally managed to secure fair and square. Then I took the kids to the marina and we let Sunward slide out into a day that smelled like clean rope and late summer fruit and the possibility of a storm that decided to go bother someone else. The twins practiced their bowl lines and one of them did it backward and cussed and then looked at me to see if it was the kind of day where I'd correct the word or the knot, and I corrected the knot because there is time to learn language later. We passed a sailboat named Second Chance and I hated it and loved it for its lack of subtlety. We waved to a man on a dock who looked like a child until he stood up. The youngest fell asleep with her cheek on my thigh, as heavy and trusting as a sack of flour. The sun was something we could feel but not yet see on the late afternoon water. In those minutes, nothing hummed but what should. The motor at idle, a life I could hear again because I'd taken the dead weight off its prop. There's a lie people tell about divorce, an easy one, that you only have two choices: burn down the whole harbor or leave all the lights on like nothing happened. The truth is, in the middle, a road with potholes you learn by feel. I kept the good scissors and the jar of change and the phrase "safe harbor," and I let the rest be scrap metal I could sell for what it taught me. Sometimes, when the kids are with Casey and the apartment is too quiet, I go to the boatyard and work alone on nothing in particular. I sand the places that already shine. I coil lines into circles a monk would be proud of. I listen to the radio low, the old station that plays songs that care more about the chorus than the verse, and I let my throat open and sing badly. A dockhand named Faith, "How's that for a sermon?" asked me once if I ever get lonely. I told her yes, because I am not 18 and I can say true things out loud without feeling dramatic. But I also told her loneliness is not the darkest part of my story, dishonesty was, and I am not living with that anymore. The last thing I will say is that the kids think Sunward is theirs because they named her, and because when the wind hits her right and tilts us just a little, they feel like the captain in their own small movie. They know bow from stern, hope from habit, apology from excuse. They know together knot is what you tie when you want to keep something in reach without choking it. They know save you knot is the one you make in a rope before you throw it, not the one you tie around your own ankles and call romance. They know stay knot holds you in place just long enough to notice the way the light changes, which is more important than anything I learned in my 20s. New weekends smell like sunblock and hot plastic deck chairs and lemon on grilled fish. They smell like open water and damp towels and the absence of fear. They smell like my children's hair when they fall asleep in a pile on the couch, and the way my hands smell like soap at the end of the day instead of despair. After a long time of being somebody else's anchor, I relearned how to be a man who knows his own draft. I don't run aground as often. I read the weather. I make decisions you can't see and call it instinct. People will ask in the comments, because this is the kind of story that lives there, if I think she loved me. I think she loved the shape of our life, and I think she tried to fit herself into it until she bled from the edges. I think she told me to go for years because she thought the cleanest way to save us all was to vanish herself. I think that when she said, "I didn't know how to say I was broken," she told me the truest thing she's ever said. And even if I won't forgive the way it came apart, I will not pretend the sentence wasn't a rope thrown across a gap we could have fallen through. We caught it, we crossed, we kept walking. Would you have confronted your best friend on the spot, or taken it to the pier and handled it with rules and time like I did? Where do you draw the line between protecting your kids from the worst of the truth and respecting them enough to tell them the simple, age-true version? Subscribe for more stories like this and for how the crew handles their first squall out on Sunward when we get caught in the crosswind.